recording then would be anything like that.
So do I then need to start the recording? Yes.
Yeah, you can already start, and then we can adjust it and shorten it if we need to afterwards.
You can? No, I've never played with these things. Well, I'll just stand here until
Okay,
we're
then we
ready
can
to
just
go.
start once people are here.
This is the breakaway ones.
I sent another message. Can you mute us? Actually, I think there should be a setting to automatically mute those who join. They can hear us, or maybe not yet.
Well, that's why right here.
Yep. Hey, Scott, welcome.
Yeah, one of
Maybe in the microwave in there. That'd be awesome.
asked for Mark Tucker.
Let's change the view so that way we can see. You know, he may not have any stuff anyway. May not. There we go. That way we can actually see.
Scott's not showing us his
I know.
face.
I see that. Scott's like hiding from us. That's all right. Hi, Scott. We see you, even though we don't see you.
Oh, really?
There we go.
We don't see you. We can hear you though.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Good. Doing well. Doing well.
Is anyone else on?
Right now it's us.
Yeah. Right now it's.
And when we're recording right now, we will begin in 1 minute.
Okay.
So you might be the person to help us by asking us questions.
There you go.
I have some. That's good.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Wheelchair is confirmed for tomorrow.
Awesome.
Oh, so
Thanks,
I
Doug.
cut this.
And I think our landing holders actually have a hole in the center.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
Well, I have one that has something in it.
That's fine.
But yes,
Does it have one in the center?
it does.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh, yay, we have someone. There's Scott. Hey.
Hey,
Now we
and
get to see
David
you.
Blum is here.
Yay.
Wait, hold on. Hey, David. Perfect timing.
Hey, we've got someone else joining us.
I must admit all of them. Fantastic.
There we
Hey,
go.
hey, Doug
We
and
got
Dean.
and Doug. Awesome.
Making me that piece of
All right, can you guys hear us okay?
Absolutely.
Sweet. Doug, can you hear us? Thumbs up. Uh-oh, Doug, can you hear us?
He said,
His mic is off, I think.
Yeah, he's muted right now.
I'm gonna mute everyone.
Yeah, well, once we get to there we go.
I'm gonna mute everyone except for us at this point.
All right. So, first off, thanks so much, guys, for joining us like this. I know it was kind of a last minute thing, but we at least just wanted to touch base with you and kind of go over a few things that we may have not already covered inside of some of the training documents that we've sent you. So some of this is going to be new information. Some of it may be old hat, but that's okay too. But everything that we go over today, so you guys know, we're going to, so the moment we finish, we're going to send over a document, a PDF document with all of this information listed. So that way you have something in front of you. That will be nice and easy to kind of go through and review on your own time, and then make sure that you ask us any questions if you have anything like that while we're doing it, okay? All right. So first and foremost, what we're going to do, I'm going to go through this. If you do have something that you feel like you need to say, feel free to just maybe like wave at us or something like that. I know for David and Dean, it may be a little different since we don't actually see you guys. But we will open this up at the very end for question and answers. So you can just save them all for then if you want to, or the ones we can see, you're welcome to wave and we can stop what we're doing. But feel free to save them for the very end. We'll have a little question and answer time. And I know that there's also a chat button down there. The three of us, I think Sarah can check it from time to time too. If something comes up, you can also use that chat as well.
Yes, David Blum, thank you. Use the chat if you have a question, because I don't mind staying here.
There we go. Excellent. So then if we have any questions as we go through and David's able to answer those, which more than likely he will, he can go ahead and be able to answer you that way as well. But we'll check it from time to time when it pops up. All right. So first and foremost, thank you. Thank you guys so much for doing this. We're excited about the changes that we're going to make a little bit this year. I know that sometimes it's going to be a little bit of a challenge just because there may be some people who've been ushers for years, and this is just going to be a little bit of a shift, but it's all a shift in a good direction. And it's all a shift that is meant to be for the safety and protection and ease of our services here. And so you guys are going to be a very integral part of making that happen. So thank you for giving of your time to be able to do that. The community guard leaders, there's going to be 3 community guard leaders that you guys that are going to be for each service. So for Erev Rosh Hashanah, for Rosh Hashanah Day 1 and Rosh Hashanah Day 2, that's going to be Mr. Doug Negretti right here. He's going to be the community guard leader for that. Roger Cohen is also going to be shadowing him for a few of those days. I know he's got to go out of town, so I'm not sure if it's going to be for all 3 days or if it's going to be for a couple of those. So you're also going to see Roger along there. We intentionally, whenever you guys check in, we intentionally didn't assign Roger a position because the community guard leader is one that floats around, making sure that you guys have everything you need, staying on point. So when you guys are assigned to your specific areas, which we'll go over shortly, they're there to kind of oversee all of those areas for you. And then David Blum is going to be, David joining us, woohoo! He is going to be our community guard leader for Kol Nidre, as well as Yom Kippur morning and Yizkor. Roger is going to be coming back and taking from Yizkor all the way through the Social Justice Forum, afternoon, and Ne'ilah after that. So he's going to be your leader. Roger's going to be your leader for the late afternoon or from midday to the evening for Yom Kippur. So those are going to be your 3 leaders. With the information that we send, I'm also going to include their contact information. So that way, after this meeting, if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact Sarah and myself, but you can also directly contact your community guard leader for that particular service that you're going to be serving, okay? Next, let's go over check-in times. So one of the main things that we need to make sure is that you guys are in position, ready to go before we open the doors. So what that means is that for every one of the services, let's say a service starts at 10 o'clock. If our service, we have, yes, 10, not 10:30, that's right. Yeah. So our services start at 10 o'clock, for instance, on Rosh Hashanah Day 1. If it starts at 10, we need you guys in position, ready to go to meet with your community team leader at least 1 hour before. So that means you're going to have your earpiece on, which we'll go over in a second. You're going to have your lanyard on, and you're going to check in Volunteer Central, AKA our library. But you're going to check in at Volunteer Central and be ready to go for your community team meeting 1 hour before service. So that means you may have to get here an hour and 15 before to kind of get settled, put your reserve sign out, hour and 15, hour and a half, anything like that. But at 1 hour before, you guys as a team are going to meet together, and the community guard leader can tell you where. Usually it's going to be probably in the very back of the social hall, so that way he can assign you guys your locations where you're going to be. Make sure you guys do your radio checks, that everything's good to go. Go over any last minute notes you may need to know, or if anything has come up for previous services that you need to be aware of. That's what all this is for. Hey, we can see Dean now. Hey, Dean. So you need to be here 1 hour before for your meeting. So it means an hour and 15, hour and 30 before. So that's pretty important. So once you arrive, you're going to come through the Temple Beth-El office and into the library into Volunteer Central. You're going to pick up your radio. There we go. Sarah, our lovely Sarah's showing radio. And then you're also going to have a set of cords like this that's going to attach to your radio. You'll plug it in, and what we can do is all the community guard leaders have already been through how to set these up. It's really simple. You simply just plug it in. You're going to run it underneath. We want it as discreet as possible. So if you have a jacket on, run it underneath your jacket. If you don't have a jacket on, that's all right. Maybe you've got an undershirt and an overshirt. Run it under there. So that way we're trying to hide the cords as much as possible. We don't want these things all out and about, okay? So try to run them all the way down your back. One of the best things to do is to hook the radio into the back pocket of your pants, or maybe even on your belt loop, something like that along your back waistband. If it's okay to fit it in a pocket. The only downside of that is if you sit down, and when you sit down, sometimes they have a tendency to slide out. So it's best to actually have it clipped on your back waistband, okay? But whatever's most comfortable for you, you're going to feel it out. It may feel awkward at first, but you'll get the hang of it. It's pretty easy. And then once you get to this part, the very top of it's going to have two areas, and we've got a diagram in this that I'll send you as well. But this first part clips on your lapel, or it clips on your collar, or something right around your voice, because this is your mic, and this is also your keyer. So whenever you need to speak, it has a little button on it. You'll press it to speak, and then the rest of this runs all the way around your ear. So you're going to tuck it behind your ear. There's going to be some that have these clear pieces, and there's going to be some that have black ear pieces. One of the two. They work exactly the same. The sound is exactly the same. There is no difference. But you may find that you like one more than the other. So you simply just wrap it behind your ear, tuck it in, just make sure the fit is there, make sure it's in there solidly, and then make sure that you can hear. One of the other things that I'll send along with you that we don't have to cover right now are kind of like some radio lingo that you can use. There's certain things that maybe each community team leader, community guard leader may have a preference on. But so some of it, whenever you first put on, for instance, just to kind of give you an idea, whenever you first put it on, you're going to want to check that it actually works. And so inside of what I'll send you, it'll actually give you some simple radio lingo. So one of those things, for instance, is like a walkie check. And you press it, you speak, and then somebody's going to respond. So make sure before you guys get on the floor and before people get here that your walkie and your radio are actually working the way it needs to. If you have any questions on that, make sure to go to your community guard leader. They'll take care of it for you, okay? So that's all about check-in. The next thing I want to cover are the emergency things that we have going on here. So inside of the booklet, inside of the High Holy Days booklet that everybody's going to have, it will have an emergency exit list. So what we've done is we've actually listed out the emergency exits for the sanctuary and the social hall, and also listed which ones are handicapped accessible, for instance. And then there's arrows showing. So everyone is going to be able to see this. So this is also going to be included in your packet. So you're able to see and know for your particular assigned area, your closest exits and which way you're going to need to direct anyone in the event of an emergency. So that's the first option, the map of the emergency exits. The second thing that's going to be in there is also a map of your assigned areas, because each one of you are assigned a specific area. Inside of those areas, some of it you may have VIP seating. Some of it may have the sanctuary floor level. Some of it may be the social hall level. Oh, there Sarah's got our emergency exits for you guys to see.
It's the
oh, the assigned areas.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, and you guys are actually going to get this as soon as we finish this today. You're going to get a copy of all of this here in your email. So be on the lookout for that. So emergency exits is the first. I want you to be aware that we have 2 panic buttons. And the panic buttons, correct me if I'm wrong, the panic buttons immediately alert authorities. And it doesn't just alert them, it alerts them and dispatches them to us, okay? So there are 2 panic buttons that you guys need to be aware of. One is going to be on the person of your community guard leader. So Doug, on Erev Rosh Hashanah day 1 and day 2, he's going to have it on his person, okay? So be careful with that one. The other one is going to be underneath Rabbi's podium. So if you're facing the bima, On the left-hand side, Rabbi's podium, if you look directly underneath there, it has one lip. If you look directly on the right-hand side, there's another panic button on the right-hand side. Just so you guys are aware, in the event of an emergency and you're not able to reach Doug, whoever section is closest to that, that's where your panic button's at. Okay, so that way you guys are aware of that. Another thing to take note of is our AEDs, automated, what are they called?
Emergency.
Automated external defibrillators. We're gonna call them AEDs because that's a lot easier. So our AEDs, we have one in the back of the sanctuary. So as you walk into the sanctuary through those beautiful glass doors, it's over on the left-hand side. Okay, so there's one. The second one is if you're going to the bathrooms, there used to be a water fountain there. If you don't remember that, it's actually just a door now. It's a closed door, like a closet. It's in between the women's and the men's restroom. The AED is inside of that closet, right in there in case you need one. And the third is down in the APR. So that's your 3 locations for the AEDs. As well with the AEDs, you also have stop the bleed kits. So in the event of a massive trauma for some reason, and something happens to someone and you need one of those, they're going to be actually in the AED cabinets as well. So those are easily accessible pretty much in every area of the temple. Okay, let's cover VIP sections. So one of the most important things about security is making sure that we can evacuate people as quickly and swiftly as possible. So we have people who are either in wheelchairs that are going to be attending, they may be in walkers, or they may just have some mobility issues. Those people we need to be very careful with to ensure that they are safe and in an area where we can evacuate them quickly. Okay, so what we don't want to do is put them in a position where they could possibly impede the exit of other people. And you may run across people who don't necessarily feel like they have mobility issues, and that's okay too. But we want to try to strongly encourage them that they are our very important people, and we would really like to sit them in our VIP areas. So with one of the diagrams that you will receive here shortly, our VIP sections, again, if you're facing the bema, there's that cross aisle that goes directly behind the sanctuary seats and directly in front of the social hall seats that we add. So that whole cross aisle on the right-hand side is where our VIP seating is. So I'm not sure if you guys remember or not, but we add chairs, about 4 or 5 rows, I think.
This year will be 3.
3, okay. So we're adding sections of chairs directly behind the sanctuary area on that side, right behind that sanctuary section. Then we also, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Then we also have the VIP section, which is the first front half of the social hall seating on the right-hand side. So it's kind of like this block of seats that we have with the cross aisle going between. The reason that we selected that area is simply because that is the closest exit to the social hall exit for that allows wheelchair accessibility. Everything else, we have to take them all the way through the social hall or all the way through the founders hall to get them out. So that is the easiest area. You may want to check that chat too. That is the easiest area that we have for people to be sitting there.
So what if a VIP insists on sitting on aisle and regular seating area?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So Kendra and I discussed this.
Yeah.
If someone has a walker and wants to sit where they normally sit, we're asking our community guards to sit them on an aisle seat in the middle of the sanctuary and park their walker right next to them, not where their legs are, but right next to where the armrest is on that aisle.
Right.
Thank you for asking that question.
allowing that to go out. Through the center aisle of the sanctuary, that down low center aisle, we are not allowing any wheelchairs down that center aisle, but they can be over in that VIP where we were talking about, over in the VIP area. And we want to make sure that these people also understand that we're not asking them to sit by themselves. We will make accommodations for their loved ones to sit with them. And we want to make sure that we explain to them the reason is so that we can safely evacuate them in the event of an emergency, or that their loved one can. But so no wheelchairs down that center bottom section of the sanctuary. But yes, move any of the chairs that we need to along that VIP section in the front of the social hall and the very back of the sanctuary. Any of those can be moved and maneuvered to remove a chair if we need to accommodate that wheelchair. So we want to be as accommodating and kind as possible, understanding that we want them to have a great experience and we don't want to block them, but we have to, for the safety of our other guests, not be able to have wheelchairs down that center aisle of the sanctuary. Walkers, however, we can, just like Sarah mentioned.
And then thank you, Doug, for that question. Yes,
And the slide.
there was a question about the exit ramps. The exit right by the memory alcove and the one that is right by
The very front of the social
right
hall.
in the front of the social hall, right by here. Those both exit out to a newly installed ramp a couple summers ago. So that's why we chose that area, because it has that ramp there.
Correct. Yeah, one thing that Doug just mentioned, just as a reminder, and you'll notice on the diagram, we do not have, like on the right-hand side of the sanctuary, we have that ramp that looks like it could lead out to that exit. That is not a handicapped exit because it leads to grass. So there's not a lot of places they're going to be able to go. So you'll notice on the diagram that ramp leading up to the bima and to that exit, that is not a handicapped accessible ramp. So that way you're aware of that. If you have any other questions, please bring them to us here. So that covers our wheelchairs and our walkers. One other thing that we have is we have been able to rent additional wheelchairs this year. So if we have someone in a walker who may be really struggling with that walker, we have been trained, we're training our greeters as well as you guys to suggest to that person that we do have a wheelchair available if they would like to use it. So we have rented how many? 10. So we are going to have 10 extra wheelchairs inside of Volunteer Central, the library, inside of Volunteer Central for you. So if you see someone who may be struggling a little bit with a walker, feel free to offer them a VIP section, obviously, but asking them, would you like me to get you a wheelchair, a comfortable wheelchair that you're able to sit in the entire time? So that way in the event of emergency, if we can kind of scoot you out a little quickly. Some people may be receptive to it, some may not, but they're there if we have, if they want them and if they want to use them, we've got them. So that's one of the additions that we have this year that we haven't done before.
We have backup walkers also in the closet.
Correct. We do have backup walkers as well. One thing to remember with walkers that I think has happened in previous years, sometimes those with walkers will, whenever they're seated, the people move their walkers for them out of the way. Can happen. So we've got to make sure that with that person, the walker remains, okay? So if someone has a walker, that walker has to stay with them. So it's going to be a little difficult if that person is going to want to sit in the very middle of a section, and it's not one of the areas that we need them. So that's just something to be mindful of, and to handle that in a, you guys are incredible. So to handle that in a tactful manner and really help them understand what we're trying to do and to make sure that their safety is first and foremost in the priority of our minds here. So that's a couple of things with the walkers. They can keep their walker, but they have to have it with them, or they can trade that walker for a nice comfy wheelchair and you'll take care of them for there as well, okay? Let's go to seating. So what the ushers used to do is mainly just kind of manage seating, help people find seats. So your enhanced role in this is to be strategic and intentional about where that seating happens and how it happens. So as people are entering, I'm gonna take you from the back here. So one of our entrances this year, we only have one. We only have one entrance to the entire High Holy Days. And that is gonna be where the main wooden door exit is. Just to the left of it is usually our emergency exit that comes out. You usually can't go in there, right? But this year, that is actually the only entrance. So the main wooden doors outside are going to be closed. And then the entrance to the left, the emergency door entrance exit, is actually now our only entrance. So as people enter that door, you're going to see stanchions all the way down Founders Hall where those columns are. Okay, like where the glass wall, so you have glass wall here, columns here. So you're going to see stanchions all the way down there. This is actually where people can line up inside without having to be in the heat of the day, which is kind of nice. But then at the very end of that section, we're going to have about 3 or 4 ticket takers to be checking tickets as people arrive. Once they finish there, the main sanctuary doors are also going to be stanchioned off. That is not an entry, and it is not anything but an emergency exit. So the main sanctuary entrance doors are going to be closed off. Once they come around the ticket takers, they are greeted by all of our incredible greeters, and they are kind of flowed straight into the back of the social hall. So as they enter the social hall, everyone is coming through those 2 double doors. We have one entry that kind of limits and protects all of everything happening at that time. That way it's one point of entry. If anybody is entering or exiting through the sanctuary, that should be a red flag, because we're going to have things set up in front of there. So everyone is coming in the social hall. As they come in, they can filter straight around. We'll have prayer books, we'll have booklets, we'll have taliot, we'll have kippot, we'll have all of that stuff lined up there for them. Then once they get there, that's your territory. Once they get past that pipe and drape, the big tall drapes that we have, once they get past that, that's your domain. That's where your authority lies. And so we want you guys to feel like that is your safe space. That is your area to run with. And so that's also, we have lanyards for everybody. It's going to be a little bit different, but the lanyards, I love how David Blum had mentioned it before. Lanyards really and truly establish your authority on that floor. So they're going to be bright green. They're going to be able to easily see them. They're going to say community guard, and then that way it's going to know exactly what's happening. And they're also quick, what do we call them? Quick release?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way in the
Breakaway.
event, breakaway. Thank you very much. Breakaway. So if anything were to happen and anybody were to try to grab that sucker, it gets pulled off, whether front or back. It's going to get pulled off. So that way it's just an added protection of safety for you guys. But that establishes your authority on that floor. So that means if anybody has a question about anything, why are we doing this? Who said that we can't do this? That way that kind of puts you in a position to say, the temple has already set these rules, and that this is how we're going to have to handle the situation or whatever is going on at the time. Exactly. And safety, and protection is our highest reason behind everything that we're doing. So make sure that that is probably first and foremost, rather than, well, because this is just how we're doing it this year. It's all for your safety. It's all for the safety and protection of the congregation, because we want to ensure that you guys are having a safe and great High Holy Days. So seating, we're going to fill, and you'll notice from your diagram as well, we want to fill the bottom section of the sanctuary before we open up the back section of the social hall. So we have ropes, beautiful big ropes that are going to, there we go, thanks, Sarah. So they're yellow, they are easily able to be seen, and we are going to rope off the back section of the social hall until 75% of the floor is filled. Once 75% of sections A and B, which is the left and the right section of the main sanctuary, once 75% of those sections are filled, then we'll actually take off the left-hand side of the social hall first, and that will open it, which will be pretty much equivalent to the VIP section on the right-hand side, okay? So the 2 sections first, and always try to fill from the middle out. It just kind of helps with the flow. It helps with the flow, especially coming in from the social hall, but it also helps the flow with exiting. And so if you have people coming in and out and all of that happening at one time, it's just easiest to fill from the middle out. So middle out, front to back. So you'll fill in A and B, then you'll fill in the very front of section D, which is directly across from the VIP section. Then you'll take the ropes off and you'll start filling in the rest of the social hall. You may have a couple of those people that say, I sit here every single year. I really want to sit here again. And then you may have a handful of those. Your first approach is to say, I understand, is there any way that I could try to find you a seat closer into what we have available right now? And if they're persistent, then just allow them to sit and allow someone to keep their eye on them. Because this is a new process for everyone. We don't want, it's not always going to be black and white. We kind of want it to be black and white because we understand the implications and the safety reasons behind it, but it's not always going to be black and white. And so you're going to have to use your discernment when it comes to those situations and handle them appropriately and be kind in all that you do, but establishment of authority at the same time. We have a chat there if you want to check real quick.
What about saving seats? So our tradition here at Temple Beth-El is that we don't have a major seat saving issue. I've never had an issue with people saving an entire row, especially for our community guards. You want to be able to make sure that you can sit with your families. So I don't have an issue with saving seats.
Right, right. What I would, the only thing that I would have a little bit of an issue with, if it may, and like you said, it's not really been an issue before in years past, so it likely won't be an issue this year. The only thing that if it happens and we're, 3 minutes before service or 5 minutes into service or 10 minutes into service, and we've got a huge chunk of seats not there, not filled, that's when we kind of need to start raising some questions. So if you're assigned to a section that has that issue, then that's kind of where you really need to go, hey, are we able to open these up for, we're just about, service is just about to begin, or we're about 5 minutes in and we really could use these seats for some other people that are coming in last minute. So that this is kind of like where you guys are going to have to also use that discernment and how you handle it. For two reasons. One, for safety, because we do want to fill in that front section. And because it allows those people straggling in the last minute to have those open seats in the back. And then two, because we're also live streaming, quite honestly. If you don't want a half-filled sanctuary when our social hall is completely full, and from anyone who's watching online, you see a half-empty sanctuary. It's kind of a vain thing, but it's something you got to think about. And so that is another reason why we try to fill from the front, back, middle, out. So yes, they can save seats. You guys, by the way, whenever you get in Volunteer Central, you will have reserved seats for the community guard. So if you want to reserve seats for you and your loved ones, we have signs that are going to be folded. You can actually fold them. Yeah, we'll fold them ahead of time, but you can fold them and actually sit them on the seats that you have. You, as community guard, are required to have a seat in your section, preferably towards the back on an aisle, because it's going to be hard for you to see what's happening in your section if you're on the third row. So if you have that and you're on the third row, then you have no idea what's happening behind you. And your role is to know what's happening at all times in your section and just to be vigilant and mindful. So we've provided these reserve seats for you. So when you go in with your community guard leader, after you guys check in, or maybe that's also why you arrive here before that hour time, you can go in and go ahead and lock in those seats for you and your loved ones, okay? And then whenever you're there, the whole time that the service is going on, you are on. So you're still active. You don't ever get to take off that hat of, hey, I'm not a community guard now because service has started, because it's still your responsibility to take care of those people in your section. Those are your peeps. Those are your people that you've got to be mindful of, and just to be vigilant, because you never know. You never know if maybe somebody is getting really, really hot for some reason, and you are noticing signs of them about to pass out, or that's hard to do if you're sitting close and not being able to see your whole section. So that's kind of why we want you guys to have that opportunity to reserve your seats ahead of time, not just for you, but for your loved ones as well. I think that pretty much covers seating.
We'll have 3 police officers.
Correct. We will have 3 police officers. 2 are going to be stationed outside of the temple. 1 is going to be an armed officer inside of the temple. So you guys, along with your community guard leader, are going to have direct communication with this gentleman or person, with this officer. So one of the things that you'll do whenever you arrive for your community guard meeting is that you're actually going to be meeting with that officer as well. So your community guard leader is going to be meeting with you as well as that officer, kind of getting a lay of the land, seeing who's doing what. So that way the officer is aware of who is going to be serving with your lanyard. So he already has a visual of what you guys are going to be doing, of who's going to be on the team for that particular day. So that way, in the event of an emergency, they already know you. They already know that you're safe, you're good to go, you're part of the team, okay? So that's going to be part of that. And that's going to be a little change, and it may be an adjustment for some people being in here too. But just something to be aware of. Lastly, the thing we also need is a head count. So about 20 to 30 minutes because you guys are assigned your section, about 20 to 30 minutes into a service, regardless of what the service is, look for a strategic time where either everyone is seated or you'll have to kind of time it a little bit, but you kind of want to wait at least about 20 minutes in because we have some people who show up late. So you want to make sure that if your section's already full and you know that your section is full, then feel free to take a head count. But ultimately what we need is a head count for our officers to know how many people we have in the building. We want to be able to provide that number to them and say, okay, we have 564 people. So that way, in the event of an emergency, we are counting 564 people, okay? So another reason why we also do the tickets, as you guys know. But so once you get that head count for your particular section, you're gonna radio that head count over to your community guard leader. They're gonna total it, tally it, they're gonna give it to the officer, and they're gonna give it to Sarah. So that way we have multiple people on property knowing how many people we have inside of that sanctuary and social hall at all times. One of the, I just had it, I lost what I was gonna say. That's okay, that's okay.
One thing I do want to add is that one of the clergy, either one of the two Rabbi Torps or Cantor Pamela Siskin, around 10:15, I think, in the service, they're going to announce asking the community guards to identify themselves so that people in your area know who to talk to if they have a concern or question. They're also going to point out the exits during that time as well.
Yes, and then I just remembered what I was going to say a moment ago. So another reason to arrive a little early is that when you get assigned your section, you count how many seats are in your section first.
She didn't even read your question, Doug, by the way. She's just answering it right now.
Oh, sweet.
This question was like, count your seats, and then you just have to count the empty ones.
Exactly. Great thoughts, great team. That's exactly right. So you count the number of seats that are in your section, and it may be easier just to count the number of empty seats and then subtract it from the total rather than actually doing a head count. So whatever works best for you. But that's pretty much the gist of kind of like a brief rundown. And like I said, we will be sending all of this to you guys. If you have any questions, please, we'll kind of take a couple of minutes and answer. Scott's got his hand raised over there. Let's unmute him real quick.
I'd be happy to. Can I do it from here? Okay, go ahead.
I actually have a few questions that may be more efficient just to get them out, if that's okay.
Sure.
First of all, how long do I assume we stand up well into the service in order to escort late arrivals, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's mainly based on your section. So if your section is full, feel free to sit when you need to. But still that's also why we have you at the back, to be mindful of anybody else coming down, especially once service begins. Usually I would say about 10 minutes into the service. That's when you can start thinking about sitting down, depending on your section, obviously. But most of the time, just kind of still being vigilant, looking around. And if you have a couple of extra seats in your section and you see that you have people coming in, that's when you guys will radio between each other, or even use hand signals. Hey, I've got 2, or I've got enough room for 4. And as the people are bringing them down, they can be doing the same thing. I have 2. Do you have room for 2? So you can do that if the service has already started, rather than using your radio, because it's a little less disruptive. But if it's in a place where you can do that, then do it. Especially regarding any other emergency things. But for seating, you can really just use those hand signals too.
Right. And we are when we're standing, just sort of guiding. I assume those of us in sections A and B should be at the very end of the of that section in the center aisle.
That's correct. Well, actually, we have someone who's going to be in the center aisle, because we also have a section C, which are what that VIP and that cross aisle that we have. That's also our section C. So I would actually recommend, if you're facing the bima and your section is A on that side, back here on that left corner, and then back here on that right corner if you're on that right section. So you're kind of wanting, across that aisle, you're wanting 3 people. You're wanting section A on that far left, section C straight in the middle, and then section B over there on that far right side.
Gotcha. Okay. Can we, during the service, is it okay to stand in the aisle, or is that uncool? No,
that's fine. I mean, it's you just don't want to be disruptive. So
Right.
you want to, yeah, so you want to be vigilant. And if you're working and you're still seating people in the process, that's fine. It's just once everyone is seated, then you kind of want to scoot, even the one in the middle. If you're assigned section C, then you kind of want to scoot off to one of the sides. Still being able to see into the social hall and being able to see in the front of the sanctuary, but you don't want to stand in the middle, like if you're assigned section C like that.
Last question, and then
You're fine. Bring it
I'll
on.
yield. That training video we watched, the active shooter video,
Yes, sir.
Chip was very clear that, you don't be a hero, you don't stick around. I assume you're expecting community guards to stick around,
No.
guide people
Yeah.
out.
No. Well,
No?
it honestly depends on the emergency. If it's a fire alarm that goes off, then yeah, maybe stick around and
Fire
get
alarms,
people out.
yes. Fire alarms, we
Yes.
want you to help make sure everyone is out of the building.
Right.
Okay.
And if it's an active shooter, for instance, just like the training video says, your number one thing in an active shooting is to escape. And so it's not the time to be a hero. If you're in a position and you know that if it's in a certain spot, then we expect you to protect yourself. Just like the video said, don't stop for the wounded on your way out. And that's hard. That's a hard thing. That's a hard
Right.
truth to have to recognize, because I totally understand where you would be coming from, because I'm like, I want to help everybody else out before I get myself out. But at the same time, we as a temple, we expect you to get out.
Okay.
If you're able to kind of grab somebody and run in the process, fantastic. But you're first and foremost, we expect you in an event like that to escape.
Everybody for themselves.
There was another
It's
question.
hard.
Do we have 6 community guards plus lead for each service?
Yes, correct. For the most part, we're still missing a few, and we haven't heard from a few either that I know have really done it in the past, or have, at least nobody's done this in the past, I know, but have kind of been more in an usher role before. We haven't heard from a lot of those people. So if you know of somebody, I can also send a list of who we do already have scheduled, so that way you guys have it. And if you know of somebody who may be able to fill it, the main thing is that we get them trained. And that is one of those things that we're being sticklers about. And you guys have already finished the training, and I hope you understand why we did that. I don't want, because safety and protection is our first priority of the people who are entrusting us with their lives while they're here, then we really want to, it's just important. And so if you guys know of people that haven't signed up that could potentially fill those last few spaces, because we do have a couple that haven't done it yet, that we haven't filled yet. And so in that event, we want to fill them. We want to fill them for you guys, so we have a full team. We've planned all of the procedures and what we're doing on full teams. So we want to have that for you guys too. So we've been sending individual emails to people trying to get responses, but you guys are probably the best recruiting tools possible. So along with what I'll send you whenever we're finished, I'll also send a list of who we currently have serving. And so if you guys know somebody else, feel free, reach out, tell them they need to go to that, the HHD, Temple Beth-El /security training to get it done, knock it out anytime before tomorrow. I'm going to be on a plane pretty much all night tomorrow night, so I can check it while I'm on the plane. But we want people to do that. We have a chat.
Yes, we did reach out to Scott. We did reach out to him. Has not responded, so if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
And then leaders should remind you to get a count.
Yes.
That's a good
Correct.
idea, Dean.
Absolutely.
We're gonna get this sheet and on here, remind count.
Yeah, we
Put
can
this
do
on a
that.
clipboard.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
we can just radio to everyone.
Yes, and we're also going to have, and we've already talked about for the leaders as well. We'll have kind of the breakdown of the locations inside of this main seating areas anyway, where they can write in the names of whoever is going to be there. So that way, each time you guys know what you're assigned and who has what area and all that good stuff too.
Are we gonna sign it ahead of time or when they get here?
Nope. The community guard leaders are assigning whenever you guys get here, based on whatever you guys want to base it on. So that's going to be assigned by the community guard leaders.
First come, first serve. When they say want to be
Correct.
A, B, C,
Yeah.
D, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you guys can use your discernment on that one.
No problem.
The other point that we just haven't covered is there's a first aid kit that's directly across from my office in the office area. You can let me know if you need something like a Band-Aid, but you can also help yourself. No.
Yeah.
Actually, you don't want to help yourself because we want you staying in the sanctuary. So you radio me and I will get, or I'll have a greeter bring you what you're needed.
Right.
The other thing I want to bring up is, as Kendra said something about someone being really hot, you might get comments like, I can't hear, they need to adjust the sound system, or there's an air conditioning, can they please turn down the air conditioning? You're all going to be on channel 5. I'm going to also be on channel 5. I want you to say, Sarah, go to channel 7. I will then go to channel 7, and that's where you can share with me that someone's complaining about the sound or the air conditioning, because that's not something that everyone in the community guard team needs to hear us talking about.
Right. And so obviously I know the radios are going to be a new thing for some of you, not necessarily for all of you. But it's mainly using those things for, and you'll notice for some of the lingo that we have listed here, it's mainly just using them when necessary. And it's having them there for easy and initial immediate access to the officer and to your community guard leader. But it's also easy communication with you guys too. So if there's a lot of stuff going on in sanctuary and you can't see if somebody's holding up however many fingers for seats, use the radio. That's what it's there for. So don't be afraid of it. So it's okay, but at the same time, let's not carry on, huge conversations on it.
And you're right, David, there's also a first aid kit in the kitchen. So I will either ask a greeter to go in there, or we will bring you the first aid items that you need so you don't have to leave your area.
And I'll make sure to list that as well
Okay.
on the information for you guys. Any other last minute questions before we let you guys go?
Thank you, everybody.
No, everybody's saying, oh, you guys are so amazing. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for stepping up and do this. We really do appreciate it. Thank you for giving of your time today. And
Shana Tova.
yes. Bye, guys.
Oh, wait,
Thank
let's see.
you.
Make sure
we have one
pantry
more.
doors unlocked for first aid access.
Got it.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
What do you have?
Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. I'll send this to you in just a sec.